Welcome to RickRackRuby. I'm Laura Clubo. Today we will be making the charm square dangle angel. There's her little legs. She's fun and easy, so let's get started. To make the charm square dangle angel, we'll start with this red double fold bias tape. I just stitched it closed all the way along the entire length of it, and I'm going to cut two pieces. One 9 inches for the arm and then 24 inches for the body and legs. So I've got the 9-inch length for the arms and then the 24-inch length for the body legs. I have a 20mm head bead. I have created the face for the angel already, and you can find the instructions for the face in my Focus on Faces video. Then I have two little wooden beads for the feet, and these are from Amazon. They're called oval beads, 3/8 by 9/16 with a 5/30 hole. Anyway, so we're going to assemble the body. I'm going to use baker's twine for the hanging loop. So I'll cut a length of baker's twine. It's probably 10 or 12 inches long. Put it through the center of the body. Then I'm going to thread this through the head bead from the bottom to the top. And I find it easier if I just go ahead and put that on a big needle. And it's just a lot easier to get through here. I'm just going to pull this until the fold of the bias tape gets to the top of the head. I don't want it like this, and I don't want it at the bottom. I want it to fill the hole. Then I'll go ahead and tie off the hanging loop. Trim the streamers. And then I'll put the arms in between. I try to get them centered, but I still have a chance to center them a little bit later, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Nice and tight, and even though I'm kind of tugging this to get it up close to the chin, I'm making sure I don't shift the head at all. Now I'm going to tie this into a square knot. That looks good. And then let's have a look. Okay. So here's the legs, the head, the arms. I'm going to try to get the arms a little bit more centered. That looks good. So I'll tie an overhand knot for each wrist. There's no bead or anything for the hands. The hands are just a knot. Then I'll trim this to a point. Then the foot beads go on the ends of the legs, and it's usually not too hard to just push that through. But I'll show you, if you need a little help, you can always use that needle again. So I'm pushing this through, but if it wasn't going through easily, I would just poke it with a needle and help it through that way. Overhand knot. Wait, let's make sure that we like the length first. I think that's going to be about right. So there we go. The 2 feet, and again I'll trim this to a point. And this little body is complete, and you can really do anything with this. But of course I'm going to use charm squares. So I've selected these from my enormous pile of leftover charm squares from other projects. This will be the front, this will be the back. You can, of course, use the same front and back, or you can do completely different, but I'm just going to use these coordinates. And the first thing I'm going to do is add some Rick Rack trim to the front. I'm going to call this one the front, I'll put Rick-Rack trim across the bottom, about an inch up from the bottom, and then a second piece down the center like this. These are 5-inch squares, so I probably have 11 or 12 inches of Rick-Rack. And first I'm going to use a glue stick like this and just apply, not a lot of glue, to one side of the Rick-Rack, and you can see I'm using this paper pad so that the glue doesn't get on my working surface. And then kind of determine the center of the square. Just a little fold in the center. It's helpful. It doesn't have to be perfect. And the shorter piece goes down the center, about like that. And then this goes across the bottom. Let me pull this up a tiny bit. About like that. And then with my sewing machine and with a red thread, I'm going to stitch just down the center of the Rick-Rack. There's the front of my little dress. So what I want to do now is sew up the side seams, but starting right here. We'll start right here and leave an inch of the top open just for the arms. So the arms are going to come through right here. My dress is sewn, so I'll turn it right side out. That looks good. And now I'm going to gather up the top edge. I'm not going to fold under any seam allowance. I'm just going to gather about 1/4 of an inch from that top, the pinked edge. And this is one of the advantages, of course, of working with a real charm square, is that you have the benefit of the pinked edges, and so you don't have to worry about any fraying. See how I left that open for about an inch? So I'm going to secure my thread here. I'm just going to leave the knot on the top, and then a running stitch all the way around. And when I get to this opening, I'm just going to kind of ignore it and just continue sewing. 1/4 of an inch from the edge. I have a doubled strand of extra strong upholstery thread. I like to use heavy duty thread whenever I'm doing some hand sewing, especially gathering. And I like to use a thimble at the end, so that just helps me push the needle through without poking into the pad of my finger. There we go. So I do have raw edges at the top, and I'm not very worried about that because I'm going to put a bow there. And I have these openings in the side for the arms to come through. I'm not tying off my thread yet. Make sure this all works first. Here is her head. And let's get the arms through. So I'm putting the arm through this little opening here, and I'm making sure I get underneath the thread. So there's one. So there's the other arm. And again, it's in that little slot in the side seam, but below the thread. All right, so here's the head. The arms are through. The legs are dangling. So I'm going to pull this thread nice and tight. How does it look? I've got the trim down the center. I like the proportions. That looks good. All right, so now I'm going to draw this up nice and tight. Looks like everything's going to work out, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little glue here and slide that head back down again, just to make sure the head is secure and it won't loosen up as I'm doing this, this gathering. I'll just pull this nice and tight and secure my thread. I have the raw edge of the dress right up against the chin of her head. I'm going to wrap this a few times and secure it in the back. If you are concerned about the raw edge right here and you want a more of a professional finish, you can always gather up some lace for a collar. But I am pretty happy with just a nice bow. So I'll do that now. I'm going to tie a nice gingham ribbon bow. This is from Hobby Lobby, 3/8 of an inch wide, red gingham. That looks good. So I'll apply a little bit of glue to the back of the knot on the bow and press that right below her chin. In general, I always like the loops of the bow to sort of angle down, not like this, but more like this. Does that make sense? And I'm going to trim the streamers. Let's have a look. Okay, that looks good. Great. And then I might add a little bit of glue to secure that to the front of the dress. I just put a little bit of glue actually inside the loops to hold the loops down and not really to the dress. Okay. Arms, bow, dress, legs, feet, head, hanging loop. Now it's time for the hair. I know that it's hard to find my favorite loopy mohair, so I'm just going to use something else. This is just something right off the rack at the fabric store, but I don't have the label anymore. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. That looks like enough. So I'm securing the first end with these 2 fingers, and then I did a figure 8, 5 loops. Take the second end, go all the way around, then pick up the first end and tie it off in the center, just like that. I can tell that 5 loops is plenty. So this will be for the back of her head. Let's just go ahead and put that on. I'm going to squeeze out a little disc of glue on the back of her head. Then I'll press the knot right behind the hanging loop, so the center of the bundle, and then I'll press the loops into the glue. And that covers the back of her head. This face is so cute. Okay, I think I'm going to do fewer loops for the front because that might just be too much. Let's try 3. So I'm going to hold this with these 2 fingers, nice long streamer, and then wrap these 2 fingers, 1 and 2 and, wait, let's start over. Okay. Hold this and then 1 and 2 and 3 and I think this will be enough. And then go all the way around, pick up the first end and tie that off in the center. You can always add more hair. But if you have too much hair, it doesn't really look right. So this is 3 loops on either side. If you have a thinner yarn, you can do more loops. Okay, let's try it. Yes, I think this is going to be good. All right, so I'll squeeze out some glue right here on the top of her head in front of the hanging loop. Then I'll press the knot right into that spot of glue. That looks good. Then I'm going to twist this little bundle back and then glue it onto the side of her face right here. There's the glue, so twist and press. That looks good. And the same thing over here, twist and press. Some of this on the back is a little loose, so I'm going to add a little bit more glue and press this loose part here into the glue. I like the hair to be all firmly secured to the head. And you can see now why I wasn't too concerned about having a raw edge at the top of the dress, because between the hair, the bow, and the wings, that will all be concealed. Okay, so far so good. Let's do her halo. This is a 20 gauge gold wire from the craft store. And I'm going to cut off 2 inches, maybe 2.5. I'll wrap it around my thimble so it's nice and round. It's a nice shape like this, nice U shape. And add a drop of glue to each end of the wire. And then I'm going to press the ends into either side of the head, kind of like a hairband, like that. That looks good. Now I have 2 sizes for the wings. This is red cardstock that I cut with, here's how it looks. This is from Michael's. And I cut it with my die cutting machine, this scalloped circle, but you can just trace a CD or cut a circle and get the same idea. This is about 4 3/8 and in centimeters. When my son was a little boy, he was cutting something and he was measuring it and he cut the whole tape measure, and he's 40 now and I've always saved that tape measure because it's so, but I think it'll be easier to measure with this. Okay, so in centimeters, this one is 11 centimeters, and this one is a little more than 8. So we can do this size, which is cute. One thing I like to avoid is having it the same width as the dress, so I think I'll just go bigger. I think it's fine if it's like a small little wing and then the dress goes woo, or if it's a big wing and it's bigger. I just don't like it when it's the same. So I folded the circle in half and then I sewed a decorative stitch around the edge like this, and now I'm going to add a little bit of glue here and press that onto the back of her head. I try to center it. You know, a lot of these steps I say you don't have to be perfect, it doesn't matter, it's not important. But somehow, if the wings are cockeyed, it just doesn't look right. So I do try to get the wings right. Okay, you can always put something in her hands if you like. You can sew or glue something to one of the hands, or bring the hands together in the center and have her holding some flowers or a wreath or something. But I'm trying to keep this simple. Not add too many doodads. I just want you to take away the idea that you can use this double fold bias tape for her body, the head, the beads for the feet, and then you can just use any of these 5-inch charm squares and just follow the theme of the fabric and have angels made in no time. Here's another one. I guess I'll show you 2. They're made exactly the same way. Even the ribbon, everything's the same. Except different charm squares, of course. Thank you for watching my videos. If you're enjoying my tutorials, please like, share, and subscribe.